Three Mickey's Minions, and today we are going to discuss a case study focusing on the Pixar and Disney, specifically the team behind the creation of Toy Story 1. And for your viewing pleasure, we are all dressed as characters from Toy Story 1.
Yes.
And my name is Victoria, I'm team member number 2.
I'm Matt Hecker, I'm team member number 1.
I'm Karen Oakes, team member number 3.
I'm Connor Thumser, team member number 4.
I'm Daisy John, team number 5.
So today we are going to be focusing on starting with a description of our team. Then we're going to go into 2 behavioral examples, specifically the trust amongst the team as well as the team cohesion. And then we're going to end with 2 recommendations, specifically one for motivation and one for diversity of team members. To start off, just the members who are behind the team, we have Ed Catmull, who is the software engineer, and he was very heavily involved in the computer animation. John Lasseter, he was the Toy Story director and had prior experience at Disney. And then Andrew Stanton and Pete Docter were both Toy Story animators. And lastly, Joe Rampt was a storyboard artist. And just a further breakdown of there's different skill sets that made this team so successful. Ed Catmull was the computer engineer behind this. However, John Lasseter formerly worked at Disney and had proposed the idea of a computer animated film. However, Disney fired him because they didn't see the potential at the time. This ended up turning around because Pixar ended up forming a joint venture with Disney, and they ended up making Toy Story. Andrew Stanton and Pete Docter both had minimal experience in filmmaking, but John Lasseter saw potential when he had hired them to join his team. Lastly, Joe Rampt, he was the only one on the team who actually had experience in writing full-length films. So through all these different skill sets, the team was able to come together and be successful. And here's just a photo of the team. From left to right, we have Joe Rampt, Pete Docter, John Lasseter, and Andrew Stanton. Together, this is just a picture of them going to Disney to pitch their part of Toy Story. And just a quick team overview. So this team is really unique in that they saw an opportunity to make films different. They had secret story guidelines where they didn't want this film to be like other Disney movies. They didn't want it to be a musical, they didn't want it to be a love story, they didn't want it to have villains. Instead, they focused on toys. As mentioned before, Disney and Pixar formed a joint venture which was headed by Steve Jobs, as you can see on the picture. Steve Jobs, Ed Catmull, and John Lasseter together formed this very strong team. And Disney had ordered Pixar to shut down production midway. However, through the team's skills and the different behaviors we will talk about later, they were able to overcome this challenge and be successful.
Our first behavioral example is trust among team members. Team members has a strong sense of team orientation and trust in the intention of their fellow team members, confidence in the team abilities to succeed. There is so much trust between us. We all have slightly different talents, and there was immense respect for what each people brought to the collaboration. It doesn't matter whose idea it is. We use the one that makes the movie better, according by John. At Pixar, it is understood that mistakes are part of the process. Experience of learning, improvising, filing, and trying alternatives to builds in the process. When Disney announced to shut down the movie, John said that if they are going down, let them at least going down, doing what they believe in. As I can see, the team has enough abilities to accomplish their tasks and has a strong trust amongst the individuals.
The best example of trust between the Toy Story team members was the development of something called brain trust. To this day at Pixar, when a director and producer feel in need of assistance, they convene the group and show the current version of their work in progress. The brain trust is a group of people who come together to solve problems. The original brain trust was the Pixar story team along with Ed Catmull. Today, any leader can pull together a group to solve problems. However, according to Catmull, the key issue is how well that team works together. The brain trust came about during the crisis that occurred during the making of Toy Story 1, when the movie was in danger of being scrapped. Because of their relative inexperience, the team had relied heavily on the advice that they were being given from Disney. After talking to Disney into giving them 2 more weeks to rework the movie after Disney originally said they were going to scrap it, they realized they had nothing to lose, and they really came together as a team that trusted each other. They stopped adhering so closely to the advice that they were giving to Disney and started to rely on each other, keeping in mind the big picture of that advice coming from Disney. They had just 2 weeks So the team works night and day, and the result is the movie that we all know and love. The first key principle of the brain trust is that all members must have a deep understanding of storytelling, of the process, and be actually part of that creative process themselves. In order to be successful, the brain trust must adhere to some basic principles. Everyone must leave their ego at the door. No one outranks anyone at the table. There is no decision maker. The brain trust is based on peer culture, peers giving feedback to each other. The brain trust comes together for just one purpose, and that is to make the movie better. The discussion is candid, far-ranging. Nobody pulls any punches or worries about being polite or hurting anyone's feelings. This works because of the trust and respect the group has for each other. They know it is better to hear about any problems from colleagues rather than from an audience or critics when it's too late to do anything about it. This can only happen in an atmosphere of trust. Most important, the brain trust has no authority. There is no requirement to take the advice of the brain trust. It is up to the director and the creative team to decide what to do with the feedback they are given. This dynamic is crucial. It liberates the members so they can give their unvarnished opinions. It liberates the director to seek help and fully consider the advice without being obligated by any of the recommendations. The brain trust not having authority is a key aspect of its success. The Pixar team learned this when they tried to export this model to their technical team and found it didn't work. They determined the reason was that some of these groups had been given authority. As soon as they removed that obstacle and made the group truly a peer group, giving feedback to each other, the dynamic changed and the effectiveness of the sessions improved.
I'm going to talk about the next behavioral example, and that's Pixar's team cohesion and how it fostered creativity. So what made the first Toy Story Pixar team so unique was the fact that none of them have actually created a movie individually before. So this animation film allowed them to experience the whole movie production together for the first time. They were able to pull together their individual and diverse skill sets and create the film together. The new film experience for Pixar was a perfect example of teaming, which is a way to gather experts for various disciplines and put them into a group together for the first time. It allowed the team to find new opportunities for the film and enhance their creative input. They were able to build the project management and team leadership skills, including sorting tasks, accepting failure, and building psychological safety. It allowed the company to quickly accomplish the production of Toy Story. Pixar also had a unique process called the dailies. This is a feedback process that focused on building ideas and increasing their creativity. Their whole philosophy with it was that once people got over the embarrassment of showing their work for the first time, their creativity was able to flourish. People were able to learn from each other and inspire each other, and it sparked the whole team's motivation to raise their game. At the end of the production, there were no surprises because it was a whole team effort. Pixar also had a unique process called plussing when providing this feedback, and this helped to build and improve ideas without using any judgmental language or tone of voice. When people hear that they have to perform functions in a certain way, they take it to heart and they get offended, and they think that their performance isn't really that good. So plussing is a way to help get rid of that whole fear. And we have a quick video to demonstrate how this works.
Shouldn't have left you for Sid, right? Instead of leaving it for Sid, out there for Sid, you could bring just a one-hand bag, right? So like, something like that.
So that video was a quick demonstration of how they took ideas and kind of worked on them. So the nature of animation, it practically forces people to work together and collaborate. So Toy Story was a good way for the team to do this. And the dailies and plussing provided the team opportunities to engage in more interpersonal relations because they were able to communicate information and consult with each other before making final decisions. They also had regular face-to-face meetings, and this was effective because it's more personal and synchronous, so everyone's on the same page. When everyone is in agreement with ideas, this was able to help them make final decisions and problem solve together more easily. And having these informal discussions also helped to establish a friendship and a special bond between the team because they could at least find something in common that while making the film. They all wanted what was best for the film, and they wanted to offer praise to each other when they performed really well. So when someone gives positive remarks, people tend to get a liking towards the other person, and they're more willing to comply and listen to them. So this helped establish cooperation, and ultimately it was able to help increase their efficiency and not experience that many conflicts.
So now we're going to look at our 2 recommendations for the team. And our first recommendation is not necessarily so much what the team should have done while they were still working together, but more so what they could have done as they move forward. So our first recommendation is passing the torch as it relates to motivation. So this team was essentially building and creating all of the necessary tools and equipment that they needed as they went along. And there was no real goals or work allocations set forth. They were essentially doing this all on their own. And now for them, this wasn't such a big deal because they were sort of in the heat of the moment. But future groups who were working on future projects, such as the one on Toy Story 2, did not benefit from this in any way, shape, or form. In fact, Toy Story 2 was going to be released straight to VHS instead of going to the movie theaters first. But luckily, the group stepped in from Toy Story 1 and helped them save the movie. So from this lack of oversight, it's clear that there was only one source of work motivation, and that was intrinsic work motivation. So this group of guys who came together did it because they loved to do it and it was their passion. There was nobody on the outside of their circle giving them any feedback or any source of suggestions. So we want to increase the extrinsic motivation for future groups and future projects. Now, employees who feel that they are treated fairly and better are more compacted organizational citizens. They tend to be more loyal to the organization, and they perform better than employees in similar positions who don't. And with the addition of both intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, you will receive a higher total job satisfaction. So our second recommendation is the diversity of team members. And as you can see from the previous slides and from the photos of our group was comprised of completely middle-aged white males. There was no ethnic diversity, there was no gender diversity whatsoever. And we know that diversity can have a strong impact on team performance, especially when it relates to team composition. And this will certainly serve as a strategic resource to the organization and retain a competitive advantage like they had created and displayed in the first original Toy Story. So now, what our suggestion for motivation would be is to extrapolate on employee recruitment and promotional strategies and change employees' perspectives as it relates to groups and teams and working amongst one another. And it is one thing to know what the Vice President of the Human Resources Department says about the culture of an organization or group, and it is a completely different thing to hear what the actual employees and group members themselves feel.
So in summary, today we covered 2 specific behavioral examples, specifically trust amongst the team members, which contributed to their success, as well as the team cohesion. This was made possible through plussing and through giving each other constant feedback. As well, our recommendations include passing of the torch, specifically for Toy Story 2, because the team, Lassiter, Doctor, Rand, Stan, they were all intrinsically motivated. And the team that took over for Toy Story 2 did not have the same motivation. So we require mentorship in helping them be successful. We also recommend diversity of team members, specifically the gender as well as ethnicity, to just further add to the collaboration and creativity process. Thank you so much.